Good afternoon. Welcome to our midday briefing. And let me begin by sharing with you the agenda of President von der Leyen for next week. On Wednesday, the President will chair the meeting of the College, as usual, here in Brussels. On Thursday, she will travel to Cyprus to participate in the informal meeting of heads of state and government, which will include a dinner, a working dinner, hosted by President of Cyprus, Nikos Christodoulidis. And on Friday, the President will still be in Cyprus to participate in the second day of the informal meeting of the heads of state of government, which will include a working session of European leaders and neighbouring partners. And that's all for the agenda of the President for next week. Now I'd like to invite Thomas to join me to share with you an announcement concerning our choice of providers for cloud services and more broadly on our European sovereignty. Thomas.
Thank you, Paula. Good afternoon. So today the Commission has indeed awarded 180 million euro to 4 European providers for sovereign cloud services. So this tender will allow EU institutions, bodies, agencies and offices to procure cloud services from these 4 European companies. Why? Because these companies meet the Commission's sovereignty objectives, including on transparency, environmental considerations, technological openness, but of course also security. This is part of the ongoing efforts of the European Commission when it comes to digital sovereignty, and we're currently also finalizing a tech sovereignty package that should soon be presented to you. And as always, you will find more information in the press release that we have published this morning.
Thank you very much, Thomas. Et je continue en français. Je voudrais vous rappeler, avant de passer à vos questions, qu'une réunion informelle des ministres de l'Union européenne pour le tourisme se tient à Nicosie, en Chypre, aujourd'hui. Et c'est le commissaire Tzitzikostas qui y participe pour la Commission. Dans l'agenda pour la réunion d'aujourd'hui figure un débat politique sur la future stratégie européenne pour le tourisme durable. Les ministres discuteront également des moyens de renforcer les petites et moyennes entreprises dans le secteur du tourisme européen, avec la participation de l'Agence nationale ukrainienne pour le développement du tourisme et du secrétaire général de l'Organisation mondiale du tourisme. Le commissaire Tzitzikostas participera à la conférence de presse qui suivra la réunion et que, d'après mes dernières informations, aura lieu sous peu. Comme d'habitude, je vous invite à garder vos questions sur le tourisme pour cette conférence de presse dédiée. Voilà pour nos annonces et passons maintenant à vos questions. Je commence ici en face.
Hello, good morning. Theophan Hartmann from Euractiv. I have a question related to the announcement made by Thomas on the cloud sovereign tender, because it was awarded giving a ranking system and a score based on the cloud sovereignty framework, and the Commission didn't give which score each company got in order to be awarded this tender. So I would like to know what were the score of each company and whether you will publish them. I also have a second question, which shall I ask now or later on?
One first.
Yes, indeed, Theophan. So we had effective and very clear and strict criteria set out in the cloud sovereignty framework. These criteria have helped then indeed to classify the different applications. The official ranking is indeed not available. Of course, it also entails sensitive information, but I will also check bilaterally if and when maybe non-confidential versions would be published or not. So I'll double check and get back to you on this one.
Thank you. And then you already announced another question to Thomas.
Yes, my other question is related to a claim made today by The Guardian, El País and Le Monde, quoting investigative reporting saying that the secretary provisions in the Energy Efficiency Directive, which mandates data center operators to report efficiency data to the Commission, has been lobbied by Microsoft, Digital Europe, and was essentially copy-pasted in the Commission regulation. So can you answer these claims?
Thank you. This would be for Anna Kaiser. You will understand that we may not have immediately the answer to provide you with. I don't think we had seen that reporting, but we will try. If we manage to still get the elements to reply, we'll come back to this question. In any case, Anna Kaiser already noted it. Other questions to Thomas? Jan.
Morning. John Biscelli, Bloomberg News. I have a question about the ongoing conversations between Anthropic and the Commission, especially because I hear that Anthropic is also in touch with several UK bodies to potentially give them access to meters. So is there any update? Is the Commission receiving access to Anthropic's cyber security breaking model mythos, and if not, why not?
Thank you, Jan. You framed it very well, indeed, because to certain UK bodies that you're referring to, so indeed the 40 organizations that currently have access to my understandings, first they are unnamed for most of them, but they are bodies, they are institutions. I'm not aware of any government or governmental organizations having access to mythos at this stage. So just to be clear, there is nothing here groundbreaking, or the Commission is not left out, or Europe is not left out. To the opposite, we have good discussions with Anthropic. We keep working on this in two separate strands, or common strands. We have, of course, the EU AI office that is doing an important work, but then you're also referring to the entire cyber dimension, and there again we have our colleagues that are engaging definitely with Anthropic. So we're receiving information from the company, and we will take it from there.
Yes, Jan, you would like to ask a follow-up question.
I think to remember that models should actually be reviewed by the AI office if they pose some kind of risk, right? So at least some level of access should be granted to the Commission. Am I mistaken on this? And if I am not, why hasn't the Commission still accessed the model?
So we have indeed certain rules that will kick in on the 2nd of August, so they can be enforced by then. Now, of course, Anthropic has also committed to the General Purpose AI Code. There again, in this framework, there is an obligation to assess and mitigate risks that could come from a service that may or may not be offered in Europe. Let's take that caveat very clearly. It's not yet offered in Europe. And for this, there are already pre-discussions ongoing with Anthropic. So on our side, all good for now. We're discussing with the company, and we will see what outcome we'll get from the many discussions we're having.
Good. Yes, please.
Hi, Claudia Moreau from Euractiv. My question is about the age verification app that was announced as essentially ready on Wednesday. Yesterday, someone claims to have hacked it in 2 minutes and posted a video on X that was shared quite widely. I know you already reacted, saying that this was not the final version that was allegedly hacked, but a previous demo version. But I understand that in GitHub there should be the final code for review by anyone, essentially. Does that mean that the code on GitHub currently is not the final version? And a separate question, but related, is that my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that the age verification app is based on the same system as the EID framework. So does this throw doubts on the EID itself as well? And if not, why is it not using the EID framework, which is supposedly private and cyber secure?
Thank you, Claudia. So let's start from the very beginning. Indeed, on Wednesday, the Commission has presented the EU age verification app. We have presented the version that has been concluded here at technical level by the European Commission. So this entails all the features that we are indeed planning to offer to our citizens. Now, when we say it's a final version, it's still a demo version. Why am I saying this? Because the final produced version, and we were very clear on this on Wednesday, has not yet been offered to our citizens. On the app, indeed, on the features that I was mentioning, we say, of course, it's extremely user-friendly, it's protecting and meets and will meet the highest privacy standards, and it's open source. Let me focus very briefly on this open source. As you rightly so mentioned, the open source code is on GitHub. It's publicly available. Why did we decide to have it open source? To be transparent and to allow, indeed, for the community, for developers to test it, to play with it, to potentially help us to improve it. So although the technical work on our side is ongoing, that open source code will be now constantly updated and improved until that final solution is then offered to our citizens. So on our side, we're of course very open to feedback. We listen carefully to that, and we're of course extremely ready to improve what can be improved on the final work that has been done here at technical level by the European Commission.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, thank you. This is Eleanor Regan from Politico. I have a follow-up question about the age verification app. In your response yesterday, you said you were aware of allegations that there are certain vulnerabilities in the app, but that you've addressed those and since updated. Can you confirm, is all of the publicly available source code on GitHub now the most up-to-date version? And when did you upload the most up-to-date version? And secondly, I think there are some cyber experts that are still pointing out vulnerabilities with the most up-to-date code. Are you aware of these allegations, and are you looking into those vulnerabilities? Thank you.
Thank you. We're indeed carefully listening. I mean, since yesterday, here we're at technical level, so let me mention briefly DG Connect and the contractor have taken immediate steps. A new version has just or will soon today be updated. So this is what I mentioned. The code will be constantly updated and improved. It's open source, and I cannot today exclude or prejudge if further updates will be required or not. Let me focus here just briefly on the long-term objective. We need to have a solid thing here. We're convinced from the Commission side that this app will be a groundbreaking app meeting the highest privacy standards globally. And this is essential that we focus on this now, and that we have indeed also feedback from developers to offer a solid and privacy-preserving solution to our kids. So we are, of course, listening. We will constantly update, and we are very open to that, as I said.
Thank you. Yes, David.
Yes, thank you, David Carretta, Radio Radicale. I would have a couple of questions on the app and another on age verification. I don't know if maybe the second part we can discuss later. On the age verification, who are the contractors that have developed this blueprint, in fact, because this is not an app. The second question is more political. The President on Wednesday said publicly that the app is ready. There are no more excuse. That was the expression that she used. So, do you still think that the app on Wednesday was ready? Thank you.
Thank you. Indeed, and that's what the President said. And as Thomas also explained, that's the moment where it becomes open source. And that allows for the possibility precisely to start getting additional feedback in terms of technicalities, and that's what we've seen yesterday. On the first question, I don't know actually if this is the type of information that we share, but Thomas, maybe you know more.
No, indeed, David. I'm unsure if we can go that far publicly here to give the name of the company. I'm not against it. I just need to be 100% safe, so I will check and get back to you, and I will make that information publicly available if we can, definitely.
Thank you. Wait, David.
Thank you. Sorry to contradict you, Paula, but the first version of this app was published and made available to developer and the community and so on quite a long time ago. So it was possible to test it, and in fact, the point is that The President said the app is ready, no more excuse. So it's not that you have published it to test it, you have sent a message outside saying the app, it's ready. So I'm asking if you're still thinking today, if the app, you think that the app is ready.
It is.
And on the second question, I think that on the website the two companies are mentioned as partner. I would like to know how did you select the two companies? Thank you.
Thank you, David. Yes, that's what the President said, and she also said it's fully open source and everyone can check the code. So yes, it is ready. Maybe we can add, and it can always be improved. On the second question.
Yes, if I can just on this one, also the difference between last year and this year is precisely that on our side and with our contractor, the work was not done. So when a senior commission official was in this press room indeed and giving everyone a very good and solid briefing, apologies for that one, I have to refocus now. We said very clearly that all the features were not ready. We had in the beta version presented last year two options to set up the app, a passport or an ID card. We added to that a fundamental third and very important one, which is a potential QR code delivered by the school for kids who do not necessarily have valid ID documents at their young age. So the work on our side was not done between July and yesterday, but now the work on our side is done. We can officially present it. The code is finally open source and available. This doesn't exclude, as Paula just said, that there is the possibility to improve it, and we're very open to that, as I said. On your second question, there was a call for tender, and I will send you the link back to these two companies, yes.
Other questions to Thomas? Yes, Vitaly.
But it's on another topic, on defense. Yes. I would raise another one. Again, the questions which I raised yesterday. Yesterday, the head of Security Council of Russia, Shoigu, he directly threatened Baltic state and Finland that he will do some, as I understood, military action if they continue to use to provide Ukraine with airspace for, in his version, to attack some Russian object. Are you aware about this statement? And maybe you don't have comment, but will you do some preparation, maybe because it's directly threat to use some military force? Thank you.
Yes, Vitaly, thank you. That will be for Anita, in fact, so we'll get back to you. And I see Tommaso online.
Yes, many thanks for the floor. Tommaso Gallavatti from Italy. It's always on the app. It's just a curiosity because I have read that the procedure, the document scanning and the facial recognition, has to be repeated every month. Is it correct? And if it is, why? Because unfortunately, age doesn't go backwards. So, I mean, one.
For some,
just progresses. Yes.
Sadly enough, indeed. You don't have to prove your age every single time. What we said is that, indeed, when you connect to an online service, when you connect, have to prove your age when there are age restrictions on that service. Now, if you decide to stay connected on that service, the app or that service will not request you every time having to reprove your age. However, if you decide to at some point disconnect from the service or to clean your cookies, for example, from a browser, then you may indeed be requested to prove your age again via that app. But there is no monthly criteria. This really depends on the user on a one-on-one basis and how you treat your cookies and your disconnection preferences.
I would suggest that we move on unless we have different topics for tomorrow. Why? Because today we need to close by 45. You know, we have a technical briefing at 45. David, still on this? Still on Thomas? Go ahead.
It's on communications, and maybe it's also for you. I'd like to get some clarification of the lack of celebration of the anniversary of the birthday document of the European Commission, which is the Treaty of Rome, which is 18th of April 1951. Could you give us some idea about the background, how this decision was made? For example, in the past, the Commission has spent millions of euros on celebrating the Treaty of Rome, which is the third community which was established. But I'm wondering why this foundational document, which actually brings the Commission into existence and other bodies as well, is being passed over in silence.
And raised this question earlier on. I checked. We're not foreseeing any dedicated events, but we will not let this extremely important date, as you mentioned. We should be reminded of our foundations and clear milestones, and the celebration of the Paris Treaty, 75 years, is something worth recalling, and so we will do so by other means, not necessarily in an event, but you will see that we will indeed not let this anniversary go unnoticed. So now we move on to Anita to come back on the question that Vitaly had raised. We have 15 minutes to cover the rest of the menu. Just for recording purposes, Vitaly, can you repeat very shortly just the question? We can leave out the context.
Yesterday, the Secretary of Security Council, I think Russia, Shoigu, former Minister for Defense, he published statement and he threatened Baltic state and Finland that he will act in some way if this country will continue to provide airspace, in his version, to attack some object on the territory of Russia. And in this regard, are you aware about this statement? And it's like direct threat of using military means, I think, and maybe you do some preparation or some reaction. Thank you, because it's officials.
Yes, thank you, Vitaly. It is very clear that such statements are part of Russia's textbook of disinformation. And it's also creating pretexts for escalation and also undermining regional security. Nothing new. And in fact, I would also like to point you out to the statements that we've also seen where precisely these member states are clearly rejecting this groundless assertion. So there is no evidence to support these claims from what we have seen.
Yes, Nikolaus. It's for Anna Kaiser. Any other foreign affairs questions, please?
Thank you very much, Lyubov Pronina, Bloomberg News. It's not so much foreign affairs, although in broad terms you can probably say that. And it's also a question about another application that comes along with the entry-exit system that was fully rolled out.
For Anita. Entry-exit, I note down, we'll come back to that. Foreign affairs, yes, please.
Thank you. I think it's foreign affairs. Well, it is foreign affairs, but I'm not sure it's for Anita. So I can carry on? I guess. Okay. So it's in relation to a question. It's a follow-up on a question that was raised yesterday, and I suppose it's a bit for yourself as well, Paula, because the 60 NGOs wrote a letter to President von der Leyen calling for the pause of the association agreement with Israel. So I'm asking, like, did the President receive that letter? Is she going to respond to that letter from the 60 NGOs? And more generally, you know, in terms of pressure, I know that was mentioned yesterday that the foreign affairs ministers in Luxembourg can raise the issue on Tuesday, and there was a lot of talk about support for Palestinians. But more generally speaking, why is it that thus far the EU hasn't taken any meaningful action to put pressure on Israel to change its behaviour?
Thank you. Yes, usually for Anwar. Let's see. Then let's call Anwar here indeed, because we're tight in time. I think allow us to disagree with your premise on our action, but Anwar will address it here.
Hello, indeed. I obviously stand by what we have obviously said yesterday, and I will not prejudge at this stage what can be discussed or not discussed by the ministers on Tuesday, when we will have the Foreign Affairs Council. Now, in terms of receptions of letters, I can only speak at the level of the High Representative in terms of letters, and I can confirm that we have received a letter from members of the Parliament, European Parliament, on this dimension. We are currently assessing it, and we will reply in due course. Now, on the macro picture of your question in terms of your perceived angle, in terms of your perceived inaction, allow me to strongly object. Why? Because diplomacy is all about incentives and disincentives. In this case, we speak about an incentive. Which one? The one that has been put on the table by the President of the European Commission at the last State of the Union. This incentive has been quite activated because it is still on the table and has never been put off the table. In terms of diplomatic engagement, it means something. It means that this is being regularly addressed in the open channels of communication that we do have from the EU with our interlocutors from the Israeli side, and the High Representative is engaging on a regular basis with her Israeli interlocutor. Now, in terms of action, we have been very active on the file. I have yesterday, when I have been quite, I think, exhaustive in terms of all angles that we have and that we are being activating in terms of our toolbox, and I will happily do it again, because I think that a refresher is needed now that you have also momentum in terms of questions from the press room. We have a multidimensional toolbox that we are activating. Why? To address the multifaceted needs that we see in Gaza from the humanitarian perspective, with more than 500 million euros since October 2023. Then, in terms of financial support, with the 1.6 billion euros that will be delivered for 2025 up to 2027 to support the Palestinian Authority, because we need a strong Palestinian Authority to actually be able to provide the services to its population, all the more so in the horizon that we are supporting, which is a horizon of a two-state solution, with having two states, democratic states, Israel and Palestine, living side by side in peace and security within secure and recognized borders. Then, in terms of the two-state solution, we are and we have been supporters of the two-state solution at the level of the EU27, so there is no ambiguity whatsoever in terms of the EU position on the matter, because this is unanimously agreed by the 27 and at the highest level, the level of the leaders. This is not declaratory, but this is also put into action, as we will say and as we will see on Monday, with two events of political and particular importance, both the AHLC, the Ad hoc Liaison Committee. Beyond this acronym that might not be that intelligible to you, it has concrete implications that the High Rep will also unpack on Monday, together with the Global Alliance for the two-state solution, which is convening several actors, again, in support of the two-state solution. And in light of all of that, I could go on and on and on, but I'm looking at the map, but I'm looking at the time indeed, but that was just to give you a flavor of how we're active and to respectfully object with your premise.
Thank you, Anwar, for setting out our position on this issue. Indeed. Another question for Anwar on foreign affairs. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's actually for Anita, I'm afraid, so I'd like if she could go back. It's Chris Powers from the Kiev Independent. I have two topics of questions, the 20th Sanctions Package and the Council of Europe Special Tribunal. I'll ask about the 20th Sanctions Package first. Yesterday, at between 3 and 4 p.m., HR VP Kallas tweeted that she's going to bring up the package in next week's FAC. A couple of hours before that, Slovakia's foreign minister said that they're definitely going to block it. I am wondering if she has been given a reason to expect that the objection, which is the Druzhba pipeline not being repaired, might be fixed by next week's FAC meeting, and whether or not she has. Why is she introducing something at the moment that's currently set to be vetoed on arrival?
Thank you, Anwar. That will be it for you today. Anita, we usually don't pronounce ourselves on ongoing discussions regarding sanctions up until the moment they are through. But Anita, anything that you can say about that?
Gladly reiterating the High Representative post and intention indeed for the upcoming FAC this Tuesday, where the direction of travel is set and all the actions that we are undertaking is to make sure that we're unblocking the 90 billion loan and also move forward with the 20th action package. But on how this will be done as per usual procedure, we'll not be able, obviously, to comment on this.
But we remain committed to getting it through. That I can also confirm with Anita. Now you had another question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll be quick. So countries now are filing in to support the Council of Europe Special Tribunal for the crime of aggression against Ukraine. Over 20 now. At the end of March, Kallas said that the Commission said that they would like the EU to be a separate signing member. I'm wondering if we can get an update on how that's going. Is it on track? Where are we?
So on this, Marcus will be able to brief you further on the details. But indeed, this is also one of the key objectives of the High Representative, and hence for the informal FAC meeting, this was also one of the discussions that took place in Ukraine.
Marcus, do you want to add? It's either now or never. No, it's never today. Never today, because we're coming towards the end, and we had a number of other questions signaled, but otherwise you would also add bilaterally if anything else to add. And we had questions to Anna Kaiser. Anna Kaiser, I would call you up, and then I fear that we will conclude with you today.
Thank you so much, Nicholas Kohlmeier, for your active. Yesterday, the International Energy Agency chief Fatih Birol said Europe had 6 weeks of jet fuel left. Is that also the Commission's assessment, 6 weeks of jet fuel, so shortage in June? And if yes, which cities, airports do you expect to run out first? And will the Commission undertake any measures such as temporarily suspending the anti-bunkering regulation and these anti-tankering regulation and these kinds of interventions?
The Oil Coordination Group met yesterday and concluded that there are no fuel shortages in the European Union at the present. However, we are preparing for possible supply shortages for jet fuels, which remain the concern. And why they are the concern is that our refineries cover around 70% of EU's consumption, and the remainder is obviously reliant on imports. And if the situation in the Strait of Hormuz continues, the European Union will be preparing to launch possible coordinated action as regards jet fuels. But now on the various assessments, including that of the International Energy Agency, he was referring to Europe, which is not exactly the same as European Union, but obviously we are fully aware we're getting real-time information from our industry as well on the situation. But despite these assessments of how long not, it does not mean that we will be completely running out of jet fuel. Jet fuel is part of a global, continuously supplied market, and it is supported by continuous production, imports and stocks. So there is considerable jet fuel refining capacity also within Europe. So we obviously are aware, and so is everybody else, that the jet fuel markets are tight and being closely monitored. The European Union keeps emergency stocks in accordance with European Union law, and these can be released if needed by the market. But so far, the market is managing this tightness without any shortage. So this is where we are at the moment, real-time coordination or very frequent coordination, having a full situational awareness of constantly where we are, helps us then to determine next steps. This is to reply to the many questions that why do you coordinate so much? It is absolutely essential to do this because we couldn't have any kind of visibility to give to the industry or to our member states without really having a full information what is happening.
And on the earlier question, I imagine that we don't have the information yet.
Maybe let's take these first. Were these follow-ups on the fuels? Yes.
I'm afraid we won't be able to take all the follow-ups, judging already from the number of hands up. I'll take this colleague. Yes, please. Yes, you. And then we'll have to wrap up.
Hi. Tommaso Lecca with Political Europe. So I just want to understand, because yesterday airlines like Lufthansa and KLM are taking already some important measures in terms of retiring planes and cutting flights. You mentioned the stocks. Are you talking about stocks of oil, or are you talking about stocks of kerosene, already refined jet fuel? So could you give us more clarity about this? And at what point are you going to move from the nowadays approach, which is wait and see and coordination approach, to something more than non-binding communications? Thank you.
First of all, we're not just waiting and seeing. We are being very, very active on this. There is no indication of a systemic fuel shortages that would lead to widespread flight cancellations. And this is something that we follow closely, including with the International Energy Agency and our industry. So these decisions by individual airports are the decisions to take by the individual airports, but we're not seeing a systematic, widespread shortage of fuel. Now, it's you asked about what kind of stocks we are talking about. We have regulation, we have legislation in the European Union that mandates member states to hold reserves, strategic reserve, for 90 days, both for oil and for gas. And as regards oil, it is up to the member states to decide what share of this 90 days of reserve stock is for crude oil and what share is for refined products, including kerosene and jet fuels. So we have to remember there's commercial stock and then there's strategic stock. And generally speaking, we are at this stage, we are talking about commercial stock. Okay.
Thank you, Kaiser, for that clarification. Indeed, and as said, today we'll need to stop here. I did note that there was also another question that had started to be formulated on the entry exit system. Marcus will get back to you, but we do not want to make our acting DG waiting. So we will have Guillaume joining us now here for the technical briefing on the action plan for the Pact for the Mediterranean. And for those not staying, wish you a smooth start of the weekend. Thank you.